podcast, but really for him being in Florida, update us, Sean. This is 2 weeks in a row of hurricanes. I mean, what I'm sure you've been learning more about hurricanes than you ever did, and you've been living in Florida some time.
Uh, Thanks for having me on again, Neil. So, yeah, my background is in emergency response, and that's actually what I wanted to do coming out of the military. So, the hurricane thing and watching that and being prepared for that, those are things that um, I'd love to be watching and be involved and try to help share resources and things like that when it comes to that. And we've had two major hurricanes hit Florida, Helene, obviously, that went up into Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, caused a lot of havoc up there. And then Milton, who went across Florida and basically went straight across I-4 and caused a lot of damage. So it's been an active couple of weeks, and that they predicted a really bad year this year. So unfortunately, we're not done yet. We still go a whole nother month or so.
A very weak, right? Maybe. I don't know. That's
I
terrible.
hope it's not every week.
I mean, was this expected months ago that Florida was going to get hit like this?
Several predictions come out every year. Colorado State is actually one of the ones who puts out a prediction how many storms they think are going to happen, name storms, major storms, things like that, and they predicted quite a few. This year it was larger than last year's total, and so far, like last year, I think they were dead on. This year, we'll see. Hopefully, they're wrong this year.
Well, so you said, what did they say? They said how many storms?
I want to say it was something like 24 or something like it was a lot of storms. So I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I think they were predicting up to 8 major storms. So it's definitely been an active year, and hopefully we don't reach the full number.
So what do you think of like the resources that are available for people who have gone through the hurricane, like especially in certain areas of Florida got really hit hard? Do you have a way, especially let's talk about vets. Do they have certain ones just for veterans specifically going through that, getting hit with storm?
So there are, your obvious ones like FEMA, and I know FEMA's been in the news a lot. There's been a lot of discussion one way or the other. I'm obviously not going to get into that, but FEMA's job is, this disaster response mission, and that they will get to it, and hopefully they've learned from their mistakes in the past, and continue to improve upon it. And then, of course, each state's governor plays a huge role as well. And here with Governor DeSantis. I mean, that guy's as cool as it comes when it comes to hurricanes. He's ready, he's prepared, and he works very closely with the National Guard because that's our number one resource is bringing up the National Guard when emergencies happen within a state. So he's all over that. There are like veteran crisis lines that you can call for assistance. One thing I saw this time, Uber had an offer for free in evacuation zones in Florida, free trips to um, from a home to a safety area.
Hmm.
So that was pretty neat to see people getting on board like that. And I want to say that Florida reacted better this time because of what just happened with Helene. The stuff that we're seeing on the news with North Carolina and the mountains and things like that, I think caused people to realize, hey, we need to take this a little bit more serious than maybe we do in some years.
And that's huge.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because the deal with that, there's so many people evacuated. Did you ever consider evacuating or you never needed to?
For this one, I didn't feel that we needed to. We expected to have tropical storm force type winds and rain where we were. And with this storm, we were on the west side of the storm, which is the better side to be on. So really didn't, we heard some whipping of wind and stuff like that, like 3, 4 in the morning, but it definitely, I would say Helene was a louder and maybe even a little bit more violent storm for us here in Jacksonville as far as down limbs and things like that.
So what do you think is going so you don't can't predict next week. I get again hit Wednesday. Is that potential Jacksonville or Jacksonville really doesn't get hit for hurricanes as bad as other places?
I hate to say it because I'm one of those guys that, like, if you're getting on a plane, you don't talk about planes crashing, so
Mm.
yeah, I don't like to talk about things like that. But you always have to be watching, right? So while Milton was starting to build and come across, there was another disturbance right above South America. Now it hasn't really developed into anything, which is good, But then yesterday there was also a tropical wave that came off of Africa, which they're predicting 20% chance in the next 5 days of turning into something. Now the last two that have come off of there have turned and never hit the U.S. They've basically turned and done a U-turn up towards Europe. So I mean, it's crazy, but I mean those two, Leslie and I can't remember the other one, Kirk, I think. They turned into major hurricanes out there. They just happened to not come to land, which was fantastic. So,
Wow. And hurricanes come all the way to what time of year for you guys?
it's in November, so hurricane season goes till November, and so we're getting close to the end. So hopefully it doesn't get too active here.
Oh my goodness, for sure. I think that ultimately, what would you, because you're majored in this, how would you prepare to, especially if you're not having to evacuate, but it could still be very dangerous? How should you prepare yourself for a storm like this?
Well, I think one thing that a lot of people overlook is flood insurance. You really have to take a look at your area and really pay attention to what the possibilities are, because there's a lot of people that are going to lose a lot of money from Helene when it went through. They didn't have flood insurance, and that's unfortunate. So that's one. But prepare, make a hurricane kit. It's like any other disaster or whatever. You have your go bag or whatever. You have some dry food that you can heat up. My family's been involved in the Boy Scouts for a while, so we have a lot of like cooking equipment, stuff like that for camping. So that makes it easy. If the power does go out, we can still make coffee, we can still boil water, we can still cook on the grill, things like that. So go through, and like the Florida emergency response, they have a whole checklist. FEMA has checklists. Take a look at those and see, whether it's, some people say have candles, some don't. Flashlights, batteries, water, that's always a big one. I'm a big proponent of filling up your bathtub. That way you can at least flush the toilet if you need to. So it's little things like that. And once you can afford it, if you can do it, start looking into generators, so that when the power goes out, that you can still basically, do everything else you were doing before. The big thing is really taking a look at your situation and seeing what you have to do to prepare as best you can.
Okay. And what do you think ultimately, if you're out and there's a big flood water, what should you do? Should you be walking in 3 feet
Huh.
of water, 4 feet, like people are doing?
It always amazes me when you look at the news, especially in Florida, when you see people walking through waist deep water. I there's too many things that float in the water around here, like alligators and sharks coming from the salt water and what have you. I'm not a fan of walking in that water. Now, God bless, there's a bunch of people that have small craft boats and they go around, they look for people to rescue, and God bless them for what they're doing there. But yeah, I would stay away from flood water. Don't try to drive through it. Most vehicles aren't made to do that, but people still do it. Don't be brave. It's not a badge of honor to stay in an evacuation zone. It's get out, and because the other thing you're doing is you're putting our first responders at risk because they're coming in to save you now. So if you have the means to get out, get out. And that's one less person that the first responders have to worry about when things really do go bad.
All right. Best place you can find information on you. Where can they go?
FedSOSpodcast.com. You can find everything about the podcast there. And when storms like this happen and things like that, we try to share resources for that as well to help people find the things they need.
All right. You're listening and watching the Neil Haley